On this channel, I talk a lot about what is going on in left-wing cities. I talk a lot about the lack of law enforcement, the fact that criminals are given free pass after free pass, and the fact that this is having extremely negative impact on the citizens that live there. However, I don't want you guys to think that these left-wing governments have suddenly turned libertarian, that all of a sudden they're just hyper-respectful of individual liberty, because in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, one of the reasons why they're not enforcing the laws is because they don't respect your individual liberty, so why would they try to prevent or punish people for violating your rights, which foundationally is what crime actually is. What has happened in these cities is that they've essentially shifted what law enforcement is supposed to do from what they're actually supposed to do to enforcing objective nonsense. And you guys remember this during the pandemic, where they would go hard after churches, business owners, and all these other people just trying to do the right thing. But if somebody broke into that church or set that business on fire, all of a sudden those people were declared civil rights activists. I think one of the greatest examples of this was in Michigan just prior to the Black Lives Matter riots kicking off. In fact, a week prior, where protesters who were actually peaceful were labeled Nazi racist terrorists that were going to get us all sick, and they didn't care about anybody, and there was felonious accusations that turned out to be 100% false of these people blocking ambulances. Fast forward a week later, and it turns out racism is the real pandemic, and the police all of a sudden couldn't be used to enforce against those people. They thought about calling the National Guard on peaceful protesters protesting to open their businesses, but all those people who were rioting and burning everything down, that's just the true American spirit. And honestly, if you didn't want your stuff burned down, then you shouldn't have had secret, nobody can detect feelings of evil white racism. Well, what we're going to talk about today is a situation out of Portland where skaters have gotten together and built a skate park, and these skaters have essentially owned the city of Portland with facts and logic, Ben Shapiro style, but since they're skaters, they're kind of Tim Pool styling it, and that's what I want to talk about. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored. It's Noble Gold, one of my most loyal sponsors. Please check them out. Link in the pinned comment top of the description. So let's go to the ad read, and then we'll come back over here. Silver's value typically relied on its aesthetic appeal and its rarity, but the thing is, silver's absolutely crucial to today's economy, and that might surprise you. New technology like solar panels and all kinds of different things use silver as a component. This is an additional reason why having some precious metals, specifically silver, in your IRA is a good idea moving forward. And if you start a qualifying IRA this month, you will be gifted an American Eagle 1-ounce silver coin. It comes in this super awesome display case. It is a great memento, and it helps you realize that you're holding something real for retirement in the future. So go over to noblegoldinvestments.com or call them at 877-646-5347. Talk to an expert. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com.
Well, I'm pretty confused by if they're calling this all dangerous. How do you justify having all the camps next door and having them just down the street?
So this kid, who may be 15 or 25 or 37, just opened up with one of the most powerful factual arguments against the city of Portland that I could possibly imagine. Essentially, what the city of Portland wants to do is shut down this skate park, and the reason why they want to shut it down is because they didn't build it. In fact, members of the community got together and voluntarily put this place together, and they say, well, it's actually dangerous, you're not up to code, you didn't follow all of our regulations. And this guy is pointing out that this place is surrounded by homeless encampments that have needles and all kinds of problems, and the city basically is not doing anything about that, yet they want to harass this honestly well put together skate park.
Seth Walton has been skating for 8 years. He helped build what's become known as Feral Cat Cove Skate Park in Lents, named after the feral cats that hang out in the back of the park. It's on city-owned land. The issue, there was no permission given, no permits, and this was not designed by an engineer for safety of materials or slope to skate on. If someone were to get hurt here, they could sue the city for those reasons.
Look, I only deal in real facts and real logic here, so I actually understand the city of Portland's hesitancy of just allowing this to go through. They sent out their inspectors have deemed this site not to be up to the safety standards of the city of Portland, so they're worried that somebody's going to get injured at this skate park, and because it's on city property, and thus implicitly must be endorsed by the city, that could create a liability issue for the residents of Portland. But the thing is, this is put together by money from the community. They are willing to become compliant with whatever code and regulations that the city of Portland wants to put together so that they can keep this park. But the city of Portland has deemed that that is not okay, and that they need to tear this down and leave this to a homeless encampment, because what's safer than having a bunch of people use opioids and leave their needles all around? And honestly, I could give you the arguments, I could put it forward, I could tell you about what good people these guys actually are trying to get this together, but in reality, this 15 to 45-year-old male that I can't date his age will be able to answer your questions and will be able to make his points and arguments much better than I can, and in a hilarious way.
The city's Parks and Recreation Department had asked the skaters to stop building it out. After it was again recently inspected, Parks and Recreation continues to say aspects of the site are dangerous.
Well, we've heard a few times that they wanted to tear it down, but the government moves pretty slow. And
so that makes me laugh. He's like, yeah, they said they wanted to tear it down, but honestly, they're so slow because it's the government and there's so much bureaucracy that, they haven't really gotten to it. So we're just going to continue constructing the site over and over again in perpetuity because the city of Portland's not going to do anything about it, even though they're threatening to do something about it. And we know, as people who are students of how the government works, eventually they're going to come in and just obliterate this place and turn this into a dumpster fire, just like they're trying to turn the rest of Portland into a dumpster fire. But I do find it quite interesting, considering we just covered a story about all these major retailers moving out of Portland due to the fact that they have insane levels of theft and nobody's prosecuting that theft, that they're dealing with the harassment from the city. But the Nike store, which was brought in by black activists to an area in order to revitalize that area, is on the verge of shutting down because the city of Portland refuses to do anything about the insane amounts of theft there, and they're going to lose that and thus lose all these other stores, but that's not a priority.
I mean, we want to work with them as best as we possibly can.
Now Parks and Recreation is working with Culture and Livability Commissioner Dan Ryan to figure out the next steps. Officials say safety is top priority. But Walton says the skate park means so much to the community. It keeps kids out of trouble by giving them a place to hang out and be outside, and provides a space for creativity and exercise.
Now, I also find it interesting that they have a very professional sign which lists out the rules of this thing, and none of that comes from the city. That's just a warning that they put up there. But you can see, as you're looking through, that there are points where this place looks dangerous. However, I do want to counter the city's assertion that this was just put together haphazardly with some information that they are not really too keen on, which is, although this isn't built by an engineer, it's actually been built by professional carpenters.
A lot of the skaters who helped create its ramps are professional carpenters.
And if they can give us a list of things we need to fix, I know right now we need to move all of our dirt, all of our stored materials, we need to move that to the side. We're going to rally the whole community together, shovels, wheelbarrows, do whatever it takes.
Now look, the people behind this park are willing to work with the city. They want to be in compliance. In fact, they know a bunch of things that they have to do before this park is really up and operational. They got a good name, they got the community together, they're paying for it out of their own pocket, and it's quite telling that the city of Portland is just on their case about this, and will likely in the middle of the night just tear this place up in order to prove a point, and that point is the community is not allowed to come together for anything. And they don't like the fact that all these skater bros are pointing out all the other problems in Portland, like the fact that they have all these dangerous homeless encampments right nearby, and the city of Portland doesn't seem to have an issue with it. Now, we've talked about on this channel multiple different times about how the Ninth Circuit Court, which covers that area of the country, has declared a natural, constitutional, God-given right for homeless people to camp out in public because, they have to have more rights than the average citizen. So what they should should actually do is just throw up a tent here and there, and then this will become a homeless encampment, and then the city of Portland will have absolutely nothing to do with anything. They'll be like, oh no, people are living here and trashing the place. That's what we really need, rather than trying to build something.
Mark Bartholomew has been skating for over 20 years. He says the entire park was funded by the skaters, and it's brought nothing but positivity to the neighborhood.
Look at how beautiful this looks. Look at all the RVs and trash over there. Like, why destroy something that people have dedicated their lives to? It's actually just kind of...
And Seth put about $1,000 of his own money into the skate park. On March 25th, they'll hold an event where they clean the park up in hopes to make it look a little bit better.
Now, I talked about in the open of this video about how the left wing has not become libertarian. They have not embraced individual values. But the thing is, when you have this level of government neglect, what you end up with is a bunch of accidental libertarians. So these people came together with their own money, got the community together, built this park because they wanted it, they saw it as important, and they knew that the city of Portland wasn't going to do anything. Now, of course, the city wants to tear it down, they're going to have meetings and all that nonsense, but since the government moves so slow, what they've done is slowly but surely improve this area to the point where it actually looks pretty good, and they're going to hold events in order to clean it up to ensure that it looks better, more presentable, and try to make it compliant with whatever the government wants them to do. But the thing is, the actual solution to this, in my opinion, is for the city of Portland, because this was a completely undeveloped piece of land anyway that they just owned for the heck of it, to sell it to these skaters. If they're willing to raise the money in order to put together the park, I think that they should buy that land and thus go into this, maybe even incorporate into a nonprofit in order to keep this place operational so that the community can come together and you're not constantly under threat of all the money that you put into this organization going to waste based on the fact that in the middle of the night, I guarantee you the city's going to try to obliterate this place in the name of having more open air drug markets and more homeless encampments. But overall, I'm actually on board with these kids. I understand the dangers, I understand the risks, and I think you have to do things to mitigate the risk to the city because it's unfair for this community to come together and create a liability issue for everybody in the city of Portland. But I think the solution is to turn over this park into private hands, be that a nonprofit or whatever, and really get this place up and running. And I say this as somebody who doesn't understand skateboarding and won't support this financially at all, but you know what? These people need to reach out to Timothy Poole, Mr. Skateboard YouTube man himself, so that he can get on board with this. Here's a video of Tim Poole doing a little trick or whatever, so you guys can see he's serious business. And as somebody who once appeared on his show, I could tell you for a fact, he does in fact have a skate park in his home. It's way nicer than this one, but you know, that's neither here nor there, or as the professionals like to say, that is neither nya nor nya. But yeah, Tim Poole, get on board with this, support it, help them set up a nonprofit. You're the businessman, you're the skateboard man, they need you. Go save him, Timothy. Everybody go contact Tim Poole and demand that he saves him. And yes, I am mentioning his name a bunch of times so that I could throw him in the thumbnail of this video so that people will click on it, because statistically, when I talk about Tim Poole, most of you end up clicking the video that wouldn't ordinarily do it. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on this whole situation. I am actually well inspired by this community coming together and putting this together while simultaneously understanding the city of Portland's position. But also, I think it's kind of ridiculous that they don't enforce all these other laws, but all of a sudden they're going to crack down on this one thing that the community is putting together. It's only when it seems like it's affecting the city of Portland, the government of Portland specifically, then they have an issue. But when there's homeless people and people using drugs and needles strewn all about and Antifa rioters destroying different aspects of the city, that seems to be totally fine with them. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about Portland Skate Park. Till next time.